Well, welcome everybody. I am so excited to bring Susanne to you today. Susanne is the founder of R.I.S.E Media, a platform and community that is building the bridge between performing arts and business by helping performing artists and companies alike to tap into the power of media and crypto, generating multiple streams of income and building sustainability and financial and artistic freedoms. She is also a wellness entrepreneur, podcast host of the Pointe to Rise podcast, former international ballerina, mother of 3 beautiful sons, and experienced principal chief executive officer. Susanne had the privilege to grow up behind the Iron Curtain in Berlin, Germany. After working in corporate America and running her own businesses to building community among dancers and artists by providing mindset and high performance coaching, it is her mission today now to put performing arts back on the front page and break through the starving artist mentality once and for all. I love your mission. And I love the arts. I've always gravitated to the arts. I don't know if I've got a dance beat in me. I don't think I could ever. I have mad respect for ballerinas. And I did one bar class and I was like, oh, these ballerinas, they in shape. They could totally outdo like athletic hockey players, football players, guaranteed they could totally, they're stronger. I would believe that they're stronger. I have mad respect for you guys. So tell me, Susanne, what brought you to the space of wanting to like unlock this path that you're on with the R.I.S.E performance?
Well, it's a long journey. It really started, all I ever wanted to do was be a dancer. I always wanted to be on stage. And I did it. You know, I went and left home at the age of 10 and enrolled in an elite school in East Germany. I didn't have to pay for it, but I also didn't have a childhood. And I had my dream job at 18, and then I didn't know what else to do because I didn't have any other goals. It's like, okay, I'm here, now what?
Now what?
And I think when you're asking me that question, it's my entire journey has led me up to be here because I've spent 26 years in seeing what the opportunities are in the performing arts firsthand. And I also worked in corporate America. I was able to climb the ladder there and understand so many aspects about building a profitable business and leadership, and how do you actually get the best out of people, and how do you get them involved? How do you build community? How do you build something bigger than yourself? And now I want to put this together, all of it, because we're you know, there's a big wall between business and arts, and that wall is going to come down. Does not need to exist. Yeah. That's actually, I love that. That wall needs to come down once again.
Amen.
Taking down the wall.
That's right. Absolutely. So as a performing artist, to speak to other artists here in the community that would understand and relate to some of the challenges or struggles that you had, you left home when you were 10. That must have been so scary to be away from your mom and dad.
Oh, it was terrible. It was the worst part because I felt so alone. And I had lost my father when I was 6, so it was just but it was my mom and I. And I don't know, it was like, I remember to this day, I still don't like Sundays. The heaviness and that stone on my heart that wanted to make me cry every single time I was dropped off at the train station, because I didn't want to go back to that environment that was, well, let's be honest, it wasn't all that great. You know, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel held. It was like fighting for existence every single day, proving yourself, judgment. You're not this enough, and you're too ugly, and you're too fat, and you're too this, and not enough over here. As a young adult, even as a child still, that is, I mean, we're really resilient people, right? Like, we can deal with that. but it gets to a point where I had that my glass was full.
Mm.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that until much, much later on in my life, that I had given way more than I was actually capable of.
Well, at being just, I've never been in that industry or that community. I never was, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, so was not something that they invested in as kids. They would sooner take their monies and invest it elsewhere, if you know what I mean. So I never got the opportunity to be involved in any kind of dance or any of those kinds of things. But from some of the people that I have interacted with, and just you saying like that fight, that grit, that judgment, and the ridicule that you get of just not being pretty enough or not being skinny enough, or that labeling that they put on dancers and artists in general. How did that like affect your concept of who you were, the vision of who you were as an individual as you were coming into your adulthood? Because if you had 8 years of that like coming at you, how did that take you into that adult life?
That's a great question. So I'm going to start with, I remember when we had the audition for the school, we were all sitting in this huge room, the ones that made it, the ones that, you know, would be enrolled. And the director of the school started the introducing himself or summing up the 3 days of audition with, just let me be clear that there is no star sitting amongst us.
Mm.
And I had forgotten about that until about a few years ago, and all of a sudden everything made sense to me. Like every time I had the ability or the possibility or the chance to get a solo role, or I was, you know, put forward and given opportunities, I actually shut them down because subconsciously I believed that I am not capable of being a star.
Oh.
So when you were to answer your question, how did this translate into adulthood? I didn't know how to function when I left the institution.
Mm.
I didn't know how to function without somebody breathing fear down my neck.
Mm.
I didn't know how to function other than feeling unworthy or in pain. And that's how I created my life. Like I chose very, you know, abusive relationships, one emotional, one physical abusive. I chose to drink a lot. I chose to smoke a lot. I chose to not eat or eat a lot. I chose to take sleeping pills. I chose all of these manipulations. So I would prove myself, this is where I should be. So my subconscious was really programmed to be broken. And I was waiting for somebody to build me back up because that was the how can I say that best? The way they build us or not build us, basically.
Right, build you or break you, right?
Yeah, but I remember clearly. So we first have to break you in order to build you back up the way we need you to be.
They said that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
I
you're just
know.
a little human.
But we're this little humans. But you know what? We also wanted it. We wanted to be there. And there was like the belief of you just have to do everything. Have to do everything.
Yeah,
And
but
if
a
it hurts,
child wanting to be in that environment, they're
yeah.
wanting to be there to be a ballerina, to be able to share their gifts and joy of the arts with others. They're not there to get beaten down like dogs. Not to say that we beat our dogs, but don't beat your dogs. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays we've come, I mean, this was in the 80s, right? Not to excuse that behavior at all. And there's actually been a big unraveling of the ways that particular school or schools in the whole vicinity of the dance industry actually have been operating, and abuse has been laid open and people got fired. But you know what? We're not taking the right actions to change that. We're just bringing in people that have absolutely no idea. They have, they maybe have a psychology degree, but they don't know what it really means to be a dancer or what it really takes to be one. Like, where do we actually have to focus on? Do we have to focus on the body, or should we be actually focusing on the mind and the subconscious programming for these people? Like, what is more important?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that can be done in that industry. I am though grateful for the journey, because you and I would not be talking if I hadn't experienced that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you came into adult and you went into corporate, so did you just shut the door to your dancing career and go into corporate, or how did that transition for you?
Okay, so I was in my late 20s. I danced in Oregon in a ballet company, and we rehearsed a 90-second piece for 3 hours a day, over and over and over and over again. And that, can I swear on here? I'm sorry.
If you need to drop a bomb, I'm okay.
That F is with your mind.
Yes.
Like, you get to a breaking point. And I was physically already in not a really good space. And with that consistent meh, tickering on the okay again for 3 hours every day, like, you're exhausted mentally and physically, that I just one day didn't come back. I couldn't do it again. Like, my body got so sick because of the mental pressure that I hated what I once loved so much. It, had me literally on the bathroom floor, not being able to get up. I couldn't keep anything in. I had consistent anxiety, and that was 2000. So we weren't even able to label it that way.
Right.
I was about 95 pounds. I'm 5'7". You can imagine what that looks like. Yeah, I was a wreck. And that's how I broke up with dance, with the idea in my head, I need to do something differently. I need to fix this, because I'm not the only one. I see everybody in this company suffering just as much as I did, only did my survival mechanism kick in quicker than theirs,
Right.
So actually, we started a ballet company down in Charleston, South Carolina, and due to the financial state of the US at that point, we actually failed and crashed big time. We lost everything, our savings. We had people that were really upset with us, written up in the New York Times. Like, it was a big drama. And never ever had anybody ever ask us why. Like, why did this not work out? And we also never shared that we actually had secured the funding. The person that was willing to give the initial investment actually wanted to have access to the female dancers at any given point and wanted to fly them out wherever they were. And we said, no, absolutely not. This is exactly the reason why we have this community, why we're building this company. So we're making a change in the industry so that not people like you can drool over them and use them as you see fit. And it wasn't a hard decision. And I was glad that I didn't know the consequences right away.
Oh, right. Because then the decision might have been a little different.
Maybe, I don't know. I think we would have still decided that way, because it would have not fit the vision at all.
Right. Good for you for protecting those girls.
Oh yeah.
And standing true to your integrity. So when that came crashing down, how did that make you feel about the industry all over again?
Well, I was done. I was done. I was done with the industry. I was done with myself. I was so mad. I was so disappointed. But you know what? I didn't blame anybody, not even myself, which was at that point, like, my intuition really kicked in. And I didn't really realize until about a year ago that I had carried a lot of shame
Mm,
around that.
really?
Yeah, oh yeah, gosh, yeah, yeah. And I still have a few people in my life that actually judge me for
Really?
because of people like you should never ever. But that this is typical for the industry. Like we're not allowed to fail. We're not allowed to make mistakes. We're not allowed to um just shit the bed,
Yeah.
because if you do that, you're less than, you're unworthy. And I think what I'm learning particularly now is that every failure, if you even want to call it that way, is a great opportunity to learn.
Oh, absolutely. Einstein didn't create the light bulb with his first go round, right? Like
Right?
if we
Yeah.
don't have failure in our life, we're not growing and learning and evolving. Like we need those failures. We didn't get on a bike and start pedaling right out the gate. Like we would have fallen and scraped our knees a few times. I've had quite a few body scrapes from riding bikes.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
but definitely failure is part of the equation, and it breaks my heart that there's so many artists that are getting the same doctrine. So
Time
then,
to change that. Yeah.
yes, that's why we have you.
But you
So
asked about corporate America, and I apologize that I have not yet answered that question. How
that's
did I get
okay. So
into?
this is your stepping stone. So that's all
Yeah.
good. So when that
Well,
crashed and burned, then what?
well, I had a kid. He actually saved our life. Like he gave
Mhm.
us permission to not roll in our own pity, but you know, we were
Perfect.
living on welfare in Germany. I mean, get that. I am the child of a professor and a doctor in chemistry. Well announced people, well known. What a shame was I on the family.
Oh,
Um, and getting out of that was a huge win for us. And our firstborn Ethan was definitely the reason. You know how we say like things happen for a reason, and when you connect the dots, but yeah, it all makes sense. It's just
mhm.
perfectly lined up.
My daughter's my
Yeah.
saving grace too.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
It gives us a different perspective. And when we moved to Canada, I was like, okay, I think I have to work now. So I started, I worked at Starbucks as a barista, and I started understanding more about profitability in the business. And so I was promoted, and then I was promoted again. And then I was promoted again because I was really good and putting stores back together that weren't performing.
Mm.
And I was really good in building teams and getting them all sorted and put systems in place. And that's what I did for 10 years. And I got to the same point. I was working 60 hours a day. I was giving up everything. And the job was more important than anything else. And I crashed and burned and crashed and burned. And I
And you
felt
were
like,
a mom, so 60
and
hours a week and being a mom and a wife, that's a lot of pressure.
oh man, I don't, my husband and I, we look at each other sometimes like, how did we do it? We were working and our kids were under 10.
Mm.
The last 2 years, I mean, our youngest is just 10. So he was like 2 and 3 and 4. I don't,
Oh.
and sometimes my husband wasn't even around because he was traveling for business. I'm like, wow, there are wings back there. I now know there are wings back there
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I wasn't the best version of myself, though. My gosh. Oh, man. I would fall asleep at the kitchen table after dinner because I've been up since 4 a.m. I don't know how we did it. I think that's a testament to the relationship that my husband and I have, and that we were willing to work with each other. And it's a testament on how deeply he actually loves me and is willing
Mm.
to be with me. Um, so again, one day to another, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want my life to be this way forever. This is horrendous. So I
Mhm.
stepped down. I was just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do now, but I'm sure it's going to come. And yep, it sure did. I asked a friend if I can help them with their Airbnb, and they said, oh gosh, please do.
Oh.
So I started, cleaning it, turning it over for guests. And I started, taking bookings and guest conversations, and which then within 2 years was a 7-figure company from that one call that I made.
Good job.
And I again found myself in a spot where I have no boundaries with myself. I didn't know how to lead myself. I was just again working 7 days a week, 365 days. And I thought, because now I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to love it. And I did in the beginning. I was my own boss. But after a while, I burned out again. And then you don't love it. You actually dislike a lot what you've created yourself. And you're working so much in your business that you don't even see the vision of the business or what you're building or where do you next want to go. And then it becomes so boring and so life-sucking that the pandemic was the biggest lifesaver I could have ever asked for, because I didn't have the courage to say, can't do it.
Right. Because that's that performance identity, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, failure again. Wow, still don't know what you want. You're in your 40s and you still have no idea. And yet again, did you build something? Yeah. Oh yeah, great stories. And then the pandemic hit. And not even 3 weeks later did we send out emails to all of our 200 plus clients and say, we're suspending every possible accounts right now until further notice. And I could breathe again. Like seriously, like a big rock was lifted off my shoulders. And that's when I started coaching dancers. I just started with building a community. It's like, oh wow, you actually really do want to go back to this. Like this is where my heart is, That little 2-year-old girl that was twirling in the living room and saying, I want to be again. She was back in a different way.
It's so powerful because that industry needs a different spirit in it, right? Like to be able to bring the heart and the love and passion of dance, but also being able to encourage and inspire the mental health and to dive into that. So, wow, I can see how that whole like childhood being away from your mom, losing your dad at 6 years old, that must have been very traumatic.
Oh yeah, he was my favorite parent because I could do anything with him. He was. I'm sorry, mother. You were too strict. But and he is still around. Like if you believe in voodoo and spirits and all of these, I did not for a long time because I was told that's just not realistic. And once I had actually disconnected myself from my family in Germany, it just like the floodgates opened, and he just kept on showing up with like the lights in the kitchen going on and off. My children hearing his voice, and my husband it just dropping all of these things. And when I had my cards read and like several different energy readers, I don't know who this is, but this must be, he's been long deceased, and like it can only be my father. So I truly believe that he is still here and that he's always going to walk by my side forever and ever. So I think that in later years, that's how I actually made peace with it, because yes, I miss the living shit out of him. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. If he was like your strong tower, the person that you could lean on, and at 6 years old, it was only a few years later you got shipped away, that in itself would be like, I lost my dad and now I'm getting shipped off. Like I must not be valuable or worthy to be loved, right?
So
Abandonment.
I just want to say that I didn't get shipped off. It was my choice. Like my mother did everything in her power to get me back home.
Okay. So you just so what was your biggest deciding factor of wanting to go to that school?
So from what I remember, there was no other choice. Like I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to dance in Berlin on a prestigious stage. I knew I belonged there. That's my home. That's my path. And I just did whatever I needed to do to get there.
And you knew that at 10 years old.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
gotta go. And I did not expect my mother to move to Berlin. So like we literally just 4 years ago had built that house outside of Berlin, and it was about an hour and a half away. And that was just too long of a commute, to go back and forth every day. I could have chosen that, but I
3 hours
mean,
on the road, that's a long
yeah,
time.
no,
Mhm,
particularly in the winter and as a 10-year-old girl. And
mhm.
I've done that. I've been riding the train since I was 7 years old on my own to go to ballet classes in Berlin.
Wow.
Um, Back then that was appropriate, but the trauma from these times where you were by yourself and you had just people looking at you or talking to you or like throwing up everywhere, like it was horrendous. Oh,
I guaranteed you never shipped your 7-year-old off onto the train.
no. So I still don't like taking the train. Like I
I don't
really
blame you.
do sincerely not like taking the train.
So my trauma, like when I was coming into parenting, and that whole like I've been blessed to have a very patient, loving husband that has put up with all of my dysfunction. Because when you have all of that stuff happen growing up, and then you come into a relationship, we get this unconscious, comfortable, like, all right, now I can unpack some of my luggage and see if you really still do love me. And then when we start unpacking it, all kinds of ugly pops out, stuff that we didn't even know was there. Like you said, like you're still on that healing journey where you're having revelations. And to have and going through that season where your husband and you, like you just realized that how much he loved you to actually get through that crazy corporate season that you were in, and the loss of that business, and all of those adversities really gels a marriage together or pulls it apart. So if it's gelling together, you be rock solid. So good for you. But at the same time, when we're going through that healing journey, when you said that you would fall asleep at the table after dinner, like your kids were young, I know what that's like when we aren't our best selves when we're raising our little people. And my heart was always to give our kids, like, and I'm sure yours is the same, is to love them, and you can shoot for the stars, you can do anything you want, and really focusing on building up their self-worth and their mindsets and empowering them to go on and do whatever they want in this world. And that beginning stages with my daughter, I was still fairly young. I was 19 when I had her, and I was 7 months pregnant when my mom took her life. And so when I say she was my saving grace, she was what kept me out of the gutter, because I could have gone. My brother turned to drugs, and became a crazy addict, and just in his second year of recovery, after 24 years. So I could have been a way bigger mess, but I really just had this child that needed me. And then throughout that whole healing journey, I was trying to figure out my identity and try to heal all of my dysfunction, really put an emotional disconnect between me and my daughter. And that was never my heart. I always like, you could reach for the stars. And then when she became an adult and moved out, she sent me a very long, heartfelt letter that took the wind out of my sails of being a super mom, let me tell you.
Oh, wow.
But it was just her sharing all of her pain and all of the things that she went through as I was going through my healing journey, which you think that you're guarding and protecting them, but when they see us going through all of the turmoil, they're feeling that, and they sometimes take on that responsibility thinking that they had a part to play in it, which they didn't. And so it was just a really sobering experience for me as a mom, just to understand how my dysfunction was spewing up all over her, even though that was not my heart's intention. So how is it, like, how old are your kids today?
17, 14, and 10. And you know, when you were speaking, just something came to me. I think I can accept failing at anything now, but failing at giving love to my children.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I get that. And I think that was, I think, one of my biggest sobering moments is when my daughter says, I never felt loved. That destroyed me. It is different now. She's 24. We're really establishing a really great relationship as she's an adult, and now we have adult conversations, and it's really fun. But there was a season where she was bulimic and she was suicidal and angry and cutting and going through all of those like cries for help, like, hey, something's not right. And I just was, I wasn't angry with her, but I was angry with myself that I couldn't protect her or keep her away from those things. And then that just kind of, the way I responded was probably like a lot of fear because of my mom. Like, I was 15 when my mom attempted her first suicide mission, and I pulled her out of a bathtub full of blood, and they had to bring her back to life because she was submerged under the water. And that, when my daughter was suicidal and she was cutting and doing all of that and bulimic, throwing up her dinners, I would lay, when she go to the bathroom, I'd lay at the bathroom door. Are you okay? Are you okay? I just need to hear your voice. I need to see your feet on the floor. Like, are you okay? Like that. And that invaded her privacy, that it like made her feel uncomfortable. But that fear in me, I couldn't shake it. And I couldn't possibly even fathom the idea of having to deal with the same concept with my daughter that I did with my mom. Like, it destroyed me. But then it was just like, okay, I still got some healing to do. And so I had to dig in deeper. And that was that season of just like, it just snowballed to a whole nother level for us. And then she went off to university, and she graduated when she was 16. And she started on campus, she moved into the dorm. She was 17, she would have turned 18 in that school year. And she never looked back. She never wanted to come home. Once she got a taste of that dorm life, freedom, my mom's not laying at the bathroom door, like, I'm out. And so, and then she just kind of went completely rebellious, went and got 7 tattoos in 1 year. She dyed her hair every color of the rainbow. Like, she just went wild. And then she just like let all her emotions out at us. And that was painful, but it was so needed for our healing to happen. So all that being said, my question is, like, how is your relationship with your mom today?
We don't have one.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you know, that is a healing journey, I would say, in itself. So I've been questioning myself, should I change? Should I settle for what she is capable of, and just feeling that void over and over and over again, and a feeling that I am not loved by her? Or is it better for us if we just not have conversations anymore? Because this whole pushing me out because I wasn't successful anymore, like that is a wound that I haven't quite healed yet. Like, I may have forgiven, but also I don't trust that won't happen again. And I'm not willing to take that hit again.
Well, you definitely have to guard and protect your boundaries. And if they're not going to own their part in the relationship, I have another dear friend that has a very toxic mother, and it breaks my heart because she just longs to have a relationship with her mom. And every time she steps out and tries to have that relationship, it is toxic and it just makes her feel worse and less than who she is. So all the work that she's done to that point is washed away in seconds when she gets into a conversation with her mom. So if that's anything like your mama, I'm really sorry. But yes, guarding the healing that you've come so far in is crucial, especially for your family today.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you know what I'm realizing is that it's not only that part of the family. It's like the more we are evolving as women, as people, the more and more I realize that these relationships that I thought I must have because you either married in or they're bloodline. Um, but what if they don't serve us? Like what if I feel like crap after having a conversation? Or what if I have to prepare myself in order to go there? Like, what kind of a relationship is that? Do I really need this in my life? Is that my energy well spent? Is it going to create something bigger? And my answer is no. And then why am I still doing that? Why am I investing? Because I don't feel great after.
mm,
And the reason why the people that are successful, one of the reasons is that they don't just put up with that anymore. They do not evolve themselves in things that do not feel great.
mm,
And I think we so many times have this expectation that we have to fuel somebody else's belief or make it right for somebody else because society tells us or a family tells us to do so. But what if it is so draining that it makes us feel bad? Like,
yeah,
what's the point?
right. You've been through enough of that throughout
We
everything
all
you've been
have,
through.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, good for you for standing strong in who you are and who you're becoming. Good for you for um, just wanting to take a step back and focus on your healing journey and now the mission that you're on with your new business, Rise. Let's just dive into that transition because all of the what you have gone through, the heart of dance, pulling away, getting rid of it, now coming back to it. What is your mission with your company now, and
Mm.
where are you headed?
So the mission in one sentence is to accelerate the path to sustainability and financial freedom in the performing arts world. Um, and where does this come from? I think the moment I set foot on American soil was the moment where I questioned the way the arts are being seen in this country.
Mm,
And the more and more time passed, and the more I learned about business, and the more I learned about self-development and mindset and psychology and marketing, everything that we actually use on a regular basis in a everyday life. It's like we never put that into the arts. Like that was never ever talked about, looked at, applied to. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I could have been a completely different person or dancer. My career path could have been what I dreamt of have I had those tools back then.
right.
Um, and I remember when I started coaching, I was just gobsmacked with the stories that I heard from these people, with the mindset that I was confronted with, the unworthiness and the money mindset that is amongst artists. It was just horrendous.
Mm,
And I just could feel that the coaching, it was so draining. Stacey, it was so draining for me. Like I took all of that on and made it my own. I'm
mm,
like, wait a second, like this is like there is something else here until I had a call with one of my coaches and he said, this is what you're gonna do. You are going to put this into something that can actually generate money to put them back into um, a powerful kind of state of in the world versus being so helpless and powerless really in every aspect. If you depend on somebody else giving you money in order for you to exist, that is not a powerful place in the world, in my opinion.
Oh, I fully agree.
And I'm going to take out all the companies that are non-for-profit and they have a really clear mission in helping people to actually hit minimum life expectancy, like fresh water, nutrition, and right. Like we're going to take those out because we need those, and we need more of those. We need people that clean up the ocean and help African women to escape all these situations that are there. Like that's needed. But I don't believe we need people to support performing arts, because performing arts are capable of making their own money. And that's where I was confronted with this big idea. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the girl for that. I can't do that. I don't know anything about this. Well, I didn't. And that was just a year ago. So I found myself more than less under the table, like, what am I going to do?
Not me. Don't pick me.
But I wanted to be picked. That's
Yeah, I hear
I
you.
always know that I'm going to do something big. I don't know what that's like, but I am. And I think the more and more I stepped into this, okay, who's this woman who's going to lead this movement? Who's a woman who needs to show up as a leader? And well, every day I'm figuring that out, right? And I think from a tiny little media company that first was in my head to what we're creating now, and that is, a platform that serves the entire world of performing artists. You can be in Africa or in the United States, you still can do the same. And you can earn money through the content that you're creating. And you don't have to hit any kind of prerequisites. You do not have to have a certain follow account. It's a win-win situation for the performing artists, for the companies when they get on board, and for R.I.S.E. Media. And we have so many more other aspects involved in this. Like I'm tired of PayPal and Stripe. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of waiting for them to deliver the money like 3 days later. Okay, great. I get it. I understand. And thank you for being here. But what other options are out there? And we figured another option out that you can get paid instantly without paying 3.12% fees. So more money in your pocket and yeah, greater return, right? Like, well, who doesn't want that? Incorporating
more
NFTs.
about that.
You want it?
You're gonna have to tell me more about that.
I will. You betcha, baby. Then NFTs, it's the new big thing, and I don't think it's gonna go away. So how can we apply that into performing arts? How can we open up the stages to not just location-bound audience attraction, but have the whole world come in? I mean, with Facebook announcing Meta, whoa, that was like the best thing ever. I know how people maybe feel about that, but that's like putting us like 5-10 years ahead in the performing arts for the permission to, hey, why don't you just put on your PJs, put on your VR glasses or goggles, and go to the Paris Opera today to watch an opera there. And you can choose what you want to wear. You don't have to pick it out of your closet. You can pick it out of your virtual closet.
You can actually wear that $3,000 outfit that you'll never want to buy because it's not
exactly.
logical.
You can wear Gucci at any given night if you want to, right? And not to say that that becomes like the routine, but it's an option, and it is the door that will open performing arts to everybody, because right now it is so focused on the rich and predominant people that we're forgetting to serve everybody else.
And that's heart-wrenching if it's focused on the rich. And there's that phrase of the starving artist. Like, why is it they're not putting it back down onto the artist? Why is it that they're just giving it to, where is the money even going? Like it's
Oh, I
always
am
like
so
pointing
glad
to the
you're
artist.
asking. I am so glad you're asking. Okay, well, let's take this apart and thank you for listening. So artistic directors are the ones that are getting their, mid to high figure six figures a year. And the entire admin team, if you look at companies, they are also anywhere between 150 and 400,000 a year.
Oh, wow. That's a good admin job.
That is a great admin job, right? And then you look at the dancers, exactly. So you see whose work is valued more. The one that is,
Pushing
making the
paper clips.
product and has gone through, I don't know how many years of education to get there. Some dancers learn exactly the same amount and spend the same amount of money on their education as doctors do, for example.
And the blood and the sweat and the tears.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And they get sometimes less than a McDonald's employee on an hourly rate. If you break it down on how long their contracts are, they're not working 52 hours a week, a year, 52 weeks a year. Yeah. So it is a great question. Where's the money going? The non-for-profits are set up as they say it's transparent, but I don't believe it. There is a lot going into fundraising activities. Let's not forget that it is pricey to pay for, let's say, materials, aka Pointe shoes, right? That is definitely something that's on the list. So that would be an area that could be innovated, for example. So we're not leaking all the money there. If it would be run like a business, I promise you it wouldn't be looking like that. Their
Right.
P&Ls would not be looking the way they're looking right now. If there would actually be true leadership in place and it would not be run by egos, it would be different.
That's well said. Ego run organizations never run well.
Well, you know what? And the thing is that I think it's such a strange, like if we're looking back to like Shakespeare times when, the creator went and, okay, I need this amount of money to invest to pay my actors because we have to rehearse. And then I'm going to pay you back after the performance. Okay. Nowadays, they're running in a deficit, meaning that they're performing or their income stream doesn't even cover their yearly budgets. And it has just been normalized that that's the way it is. But never ever have we asked the question, hey, could we do this differently? Like what else? How else can we make money? Like I understand that we only can take in 2,600 people per show. Okay, so what else can we do in order to create more income? So we're not depending on people that dictate who's going to be on stage when, and it's going to look a certain way or what we're playing.
So you can have independent artists tapping into the whole virtual stages.
Yeah, for example, I think it would completely shift the worthiness of that industry, because remember, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And how you asked me like that subconscious in the beginning, like how this whole training has really shaped me for later on. I think through history, the arts have always been something that was labeled as unworthy to be able to provide something to the ecosystem of the world. It has not been seen as something necessary. And it has, still, if I read an article about the mindset of when our kids come to us and want to be an artist. And the next question is, oh, so how are you going to make money? Like it is so deep rooted that artists can make money. And then you have a Kevin O'Leary on TikTok saying that, hey, 3 years ago, I would have told you exactly the same. And today I'm telling you, do it because it is the next booming industry. Because of the possibilities that are opening up, and we're seeing how much we're actually needing creatives in order to step into this new version of the world, really.
We need each other when it comes, like it's that whole right brain needs we can't all operate in the analytical, like that black and white zone. We have to have some color. We have to have some creativity. My husband does music. So he's an accountant by day and he's a DJ by night. Like,
Oh, I love it.
so he actually does radio shows for a couple of stations in the US, and he does all of his work in his basement. Him and his friends do their own tracks. He's a drummer. He loves it. But we were just talking about that last night, that if he didn't have that balance of the creative side, the artist side in him, he just would be a miserable man. Like, it just brings such a balance to our lives, the arts. And so I love that you are making a way for artists to sustain themselves financially and to break that narrative that you have to be a starving artist, that they are in a time and day and age where their stage is anything they want. Like, the technology that we have today is we're unstoppable. So tell me a little bit more about, if somebody was to come and say, hey, I'm an artist and I would like to become profitable in some way, how could you help me?
Awesome. Before I get into that,
Okay,
I just
sorry,
want to
my
make,
bad.
no, thank you. I just want to make clear that this is not a new model. Like, Patreon is one of the first platforms out there that actually enabled creatives to create community and then have a membership around their content. Okay.
Yeah, I've actually
And
supported some artists on Patreon.
yeah,
Yes.
see, okay, great.
Mhm.
Now for us, it was more so when you're an artist and you come to us, you have different ways of making money. So you can just have literally access to the platform and put your content on there. And we give you the ability to choose in what areas you will have advertisement run on your content, for example. So you will get parts of that as earning. We also pay per view, like YouTube or TikTok, they pay a certain amount of per 1,000 views. We're going to do that the same way. We're just going to bump it up.
Okay.
You can also create community around your artists. And if you don't, or about your fans, like, you can move all of your fans that you have on TikTok or wherever it is over to the platform. You can create content that is exclusive, at least for 24 hours for this. And then they just come over and look at it, and through Google AdSense, etc., and micro donations and little, little tokens, like little gifts that they can purchase to support you and give it back to you, and you will have immediate revenue.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So they really can just bring in their own personal communities into your platform. And how is your platform web-based, app-based?
Both. So we're gonna have it web-based and app-based.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nice. And so when they come in, can they do like live presentations or stuff like that, or just pre-recorded, both?
So both. We're actually working on that. So the platform itself is in development, and I believe that the first user group will tell us exactly what will really resonate with them. Like, what is it? What is the least friction for you to put out your content, to serve your audience? You're going to help them to have a personal brand. And really, we want them to have that fallback, the extra $300,000 a month extra, so they can start investing in themselves. They can start, putting money aside and invest, so that when they get off the stage and they want to do something different with their life, they can.
Yeah, because there's an end in mind, right?
Well, there is, yeah. There is an end in mind. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from my own experience, like, I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And for most
That's all
artists,
you knew.
Yeah. And for most artists, it's just, okay, I'm just going to go teach.
Mm,
And, not everybody's a great teacher.
that's true. That is so
And
true.
then they think they need to go back to school or all of these. So Rice Media is going to have an incubator, and actually incubator for people that want to put their own business forward or
Oh,
create something. Through my own experience as a woman in like a startup, you have no idea how challenging it can be to acquire funding for
mm,
projects like that. So if you have a great business idea, um, yeah, I want to listen to you. Absolutely. And you
mhm.
don't have to go through a long process. Like, we're gonna look where you're at. We're gonna bring in the oh, that's a hard word, specialists
Eh,
to help you build your dream.
that's right. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
And I think the most important thing for us was that we understand that the, there's this gate that performing artists have a hard time investing in themselves. So what if we actually show them, hey, you don't have to pay anything to put your content on here. We're just going to take a small percentage of your revenue, and that's how we're going to grow Rice Media.
That is so empowering, Suzanne, honestly. 'Cause that's shifting that whole mindset and then coming into that community. I'm curious, do you have support there to help the psychology concepts of helping them reprogram and strengthening their mindsets from all of the abuse and that they've been through as a dancer or an artist?
So thank you for asking that question, because yes, absolutely. I wrap my head around, okay, how can I have a carrot dangling so we actually help them get paid so they can reinvest in themselves? Meaning
Yes.
there's a whole other side on Rice Media that has everything and anything you will ever need as a performing artist. And that is through collaboration of all of these beautiful people that are already helping performing artists. And they maybe, just need a little bit more exposure to a bigger community. So it all will work as a win-win-win, as a collaboration, as creating this big community of you coming in, you're part of the family, and anything you want to is here if you want it.
Mhm.
So
I
yes to
love that.
support.
Oh, as I hear your story, and then even just like I picture that breaking moment in your bathroom floor, I picture you sleeping at your kitchen table as your kids are like, "What's up with mom?" Like,
It was
I,
like, oh, she's asleep again, Dad.
she's drooling in the spaghetti. I can totally sympathize in those breaking moments. Not the same story, but definitely can sympathize in those breaking moments, and how each and every single one of those moments has infuse this vision that you have and that you are bringing to the world today, of just building up the mindset and the healing that needs to come for an artist so that they can feel valuable enough to, and worthy enough to invest in themselves, creating platform where they can create their own stages, and being able to be independent from those high rollers that want to skim all of it from the top and leave them as a starving artist. So giving them back the power to invest, make money so that they can invest in themselves. And then giving them also that next stage of life when they can start to dream and do something outside of the dancing world, or and being able to support them in that growth in area as well. That is such a powerful mission, Suzanne. I am so honored that we've been able to have this conversation, and I'm excited to see how your company grows and how artists are going to just catch fire. I'm so exciting what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, honey. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exhausting as a startup. You're just like, am I really in this? Hell am I doing? What am I doing? But your heart's in it and you're just like, no, you just got to keep that heart on fire for what your vision is for the long term. And all those pieces, they're spirit led, probably seeds from your daddy, dropping seeds in your heart.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And just allowing them to grow into this beautiful platform. So if there's artists here listening to our story, your story today, how do they get in touch with you? How do they get plugged into your platform? How do they get started?
Oh, awesome. Well, you can follow me on Instagram. That's my home right now. Just under my name at Susanne Purcell. Check out R.I.S.E Media on Instagram. We are actually launching our very first seed crowdfunding campaign on Tuesday, November 9th, which, by the way, is such a funny date because on November 9th, 1989 was when literally the wall in Berlin came down. I was 15 back then. And you know how I spoke about the wall that we have built between arts and business? Well, we're launching that campaign on the 9th of November as the symbolic taking down of yet another wall. Ooh, I like that.
I love it. Giving me goosebumps.
Go to the R.I.S.E Media, check out the campaign. It will live on Kickstarter. The link will be in there. It would mean the world to us if you could share it with anybody that you know. Yeah.
I will definitely put it in our video so people can have access to that. And if we get past that date and they're watching this video, is that link going to still be live or?
Oh, absolutely. The link is going to be live for 30 days. And then from there, everything and anything you will need to know will always be on R.I.S.E Media, any kind of update. The plan is to actually have a beta version out in the next 2 months. April,
Awesome.
Pardon me. It does take a little longer. And then we're off to the races and go.
That is so exciting. Good for you. I'm so excited for you. And sounds like your husband's partnering with you in this mission. Hey, he's your biggest cheerleader.
Always.
I know mine is.
Yeah, always. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate you giving me your time today and just sharing your story and your journey to where you are today and just the mission that you have on your life. I'm going to keep my eye on you and see what God is really going to do in your business and in your life. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacey, for reaching out. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful that we've met. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Me too. Well, I will definitely let you know once this goes live in the app and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you.